everybody, welcome to homerecordingmadeeasy.com, and here on my YouTube channel, and this time out we're going to take a look at the brand new plugin from Plugin Alliance and BrainWorx called the Focusrite SE standing for Studio Console Channel Strip. So you can see it on the screen here before you. We're going to take a look at it, walk through it, listen to it on some tracks, and give you an idea of how this sounds, and you may want to go out and demo it. So before we get to that, if you like what you see in this video, please hit that subscribe button. Also go out to homerecordingmadeeasy.com and get your 5 free mixing training courses. It's my gift to you just to say thanks for visiting homerecordingmadeeasy.com. And if you really want to learn the craft of mixing, where we dive down deep into plugins like the Focusrite channel strip, go out to mixingmadeeasy.net. The best 50 cents a day you will ever spend, less than 50 cents a day, to learn mixing in a very non-technical way. Awesome resource, mixingmadeeasy.net. So now let's head on over here into Studio One. So here is the new BrainWorx BX Focusrite SC Studio Console plugin. So now there's something really interesting about this. I'm not going to go through all the history of it here in this video because Plugin Alliance has done a wonderful video along with Focusrite on their website. I'll link it in the description below, where they give you the whole history of the Focusrite console, how it came about, how it was designed, how it's used. And they talk about the fact there's only 10 of them that were ever made, and they actually have a little documentary as part of this video on where the physical location of these consoles reside today, and go and find them and interview the people that own them and talk about them. And it's a really, really interesting video if you want to learn about the history of the Focusrite console. I'll tell you just a couple of tidbits about it. Number one, again, there was only 10 of them that were made. That are only, I think, 8 left in full existence. I think 2 of them have been chopped up and sold as modules. You'll learn about that in the video. It was designed originally by Rupert Neve, which I really didn't know. And when I first listened to this, I realized that this has like a nice big open sound, very reminiscent of like the Neve 88RS, which I own, which I really love that channel strip. And now it makes sense to me that Rupert Neve actually designed the original Focusrite consoles. And he made, I think, the first 4 before it was, the company was struggling financially, was bought out by Soundcraft, and Soundcraft took what Rupert Neve kind of dealt with and kind of brought it to the next level, and built the following 6. Again, go watch the video. The link's in the description box below. So this has a really big, kind of an open sound, very reminiscent of the Neve, as I said, but it still has its own different flavor, and it's a very unique console. And again, if you're into channel strip plugins like I am, and if you've been following me for a while, you know that I have all the channel strips that are out there by many different companies. This is something that sounds completely unique in and of itself, and it's really cool. So let's walk through the layout of the plugin, and then we're going to listen to this. I basically just put this plugin across a drum bus, a bass bus, an acoustic guitar bus, a keyboard bus, and an electric guitar bus on a mix that doesn't have any processing, just raw tracks. And I do that because I want you to be able to hear the full effect of what this particular plugin can do without having all the other prior processing, that's done to it already. So that's what we're going to listen to in a second. But let's just do a quick walkthrough of this plugin. So the first thing I notice right away is when you open it up, it's nice and big. It's easy to see. The knobs are big. The numbers are big. It's really nice to have a nice big GUI. A lot of times, and Plugin Alliance is really good about this. If you go look at the SSL and the Neve and the other channel strip reviews that I've done, I really like the fact that they have a nice big GUI, real easy to use, real easy to see. So that's the first thing you notice, and this looks exactly like the old analog hardware, which is great. If we start over here on the top left-hand side, you'll see that we have our compressor section here, and this is a stereo instance of the plugin, so you're going to have the link here where you can link the left and right channels. If you're using the mono version, obviously the link button won't be there. But we have our compressor section here, we have our threshold, we have our ratio here, we have our release, we have our makeup gain, we have our attack, and then we have our mix, where you could do some parallel kind of compression here. You can either have it on 100% mix, which is what we have, or you can dial it anywhere in between if you want to have some of the dry signal in. Very nice feature. Underneath that, we have a de-esser, which is great for vocals, which would be great, which we're not going to look at in this video, but it's got its own de-esser here, which is really handy. Beneath that here in the bottom left-hand corner, we have our high-pass and low-pass filters that are part of the compressor and the gate section here. So you can see here, we have our filters to compressor right here in the writing here, if you can look at that. And then to the right here, filters to the gate in the gate. And so if you just click the button here, you can have it off, you can have it go filter to the compressor. So in other words, you can roll off the low end of the high end before it hits the compressor, so those frequencies aren't triggering the compressor in a way you maybe not want it to. Really handy for things like low end. So if you're putting this on a drum bus, for example, like we are, maybe you would go ahead and you do a little high pass filter here. Maybe you would go ahead and roll it off at like 30 hertz or something like that, and then click this on, and you can see now it's going to have everything 30 hertz and below won't go into the compressor, so it'll change the way the compressor behaves. So once again, you can click the red button in the middle. The first click will get you going to the compressor. The second one will be having that filter react for the gate. Third will be both, if you're using both a gate and a compressor, and then the fourth time it's completely off, okay? Pretty cool. And then we have our peak gain, our peak frequency next to this. Okay, so over here, so this is low cut, this is our peak frequency, and again, we can do times 10 as well. Okay, above this, we have our gate section here, which we're not using in this particular demo, but you can turn the gate on and off right here. You have your threshold, your range, your hold, and your release. You can key listen. You can also use it as an expander, and then you can turn the fast attack on or off here. Going towards the center part of the plugins where we have our EQ section here at the top here, we have again another set of filters, low and high pass filters, which is really cool. And then we can multiply it times 3. So, divide it by 3, not multiply it times, divide by 3. So if you were at, let's say 100 hertz, or 90 hertz divided by 3 would be, 30. Makes sense, right? So, and the same thing with the high pass filter here, and that could be times 3, as you can see here by turning this on and off. And when you click the button and then you rotate, you'll see it gives you a value of what frequency you're at. So right now we're at 181 hertz, right? But I'm really pointed at 60 because 6 times 3 is what? 180, right? So if I click off the times 3, now you can see it goes back to 60 hertz, right? See that? And if I go times 3 and now it's at 166, okay? That's pretty nice, pretty handy. We have our high mid frequencies here. We could turn each band on and off. Okay, our high mid frequencies plus or minus, 16 dB, plus or minus 16 dB. 0 is right up the middle. And we have that here. Then we have our low mids here where we have a variable Q here. Again, we can choose our frequency here from 600 hertz to 6K. And then once again, you can times that by 3. So just like above, if you're at, you can see the yellow here. The yellow is the times 3 here. So we're at 9K, 4.5K, 1.8 or 180 hertz. Click that off. And now you're dealing with the white numbering here. Hopefully you can see that in the video. So I'll try to zoom in if I remember to do that. Then we have our low mid frequencies here. And again, we turn the bands on and off just like the high mid frequencies here. We have our gain plus or minus. We have our times 3 here. We have our variable Q and then our frequency selector down here, okay? Then we have over towards the right a little bit more, we have our high frequencies here where there's no variable Q. We turn the band on and off here. Again, plus or minus 16 dB, and here's our frequency selector down here, okay? And then our low frequency, same thing here, okay? And we can also at the bottom, we can put the EQ pre-fade or pre-compressor or post-compressor. EQ post means the EQ is going to come after the compressor, so the signal flow is going to go to the compressor, then the EQ. If you press that in, if you leave it unactivated, it will be EQ then compressor. Okay, so EQ post means after the compressor, and then you could turn all the bands on and off with this button here. At the top right hand here, we have our input gain here. We have our virtual gain here, which is going to add some hits and some noise true to the console, which is really cool. We have our THD here, total harmonic distortion, that'll add some more harmonic distortion to the signal in a very musical way. And these things actually work. When you turn these things, you can actually hear the difference. It's not just the knob there that doesn't do anything. And then what we have down here, which I really like, is where they've actually modeled different channels on an actual Focusrite console, where a lot of times what companies will do with channel strips, let's say like the old Waves channel strip, the SSL Waves channel strip, they will just model a single channel off a particular console, and that's the channel that it sounds like. Well, in the analog world, every channel is going to sound a little different because every channel is going to physically have different components, and all those components have different tolerances, and therefore they're going to sound a little different from each other. So BrainWorx went ahead and modeled several channels on a particular console, and you're going to be able to choose what channels you want. Like if in this case, if we're on a drum bus, you can have channels 1 and 2. So they're going to sound, the left and right's going to sound a little bit different. And again, and it's a very subtle way, but across an entire mix, if you were to put this channel strip on every single individual track, as well as your buses, which is how you would typically use it, that little subtleties across those different channels is going to make a little bit of a different sound characteristic on your mix, which is really cool. Okay. We have our phase flip button here. We have a mute button over here. We can make this analog or digital. Okay. If you want it in the just digital, nice and clean, no real, analog goodness there, you can turn that off and start, or you can click the analog button, and that's where you're going to get some of the stuff that we just talked about. You can also have a random channel here where you can click the button and these will just randomly pick different ones. So if I go do this, I click 1, it's going to model channel 30, 31, random 51, 52, 56, 57, or you can manually go in there, double click 1, whoops, 01, yeah, 01, 02, and there you go, channels 1 and 2. And then we have our output fader here. We have our VU meters down here, okay, and then we have our compression or gain, our gain reduction meter here down in the bottom, and then our gate here as well. So that is the layout of the plugin. It looks like there's a lot there, but it's actually pretty simple to use. So again, let me show you what we've done here. So basically, like I said, all of these tracks, drum, bass, acoustic guitars, electric guitars, and such, have no plugins on them at all. As you can see here, it's completely unprocessed, raw tracks. That should be off. And what I did is I put the Focusrite across the buses: drums, bass, acoustic guitars, keyboards, and electric guitars. And I've already kind of dialed them in a little bit. So let's just start with our drums. Let's solo up our drums here. Let's listen to our drums. I'll bypass this by clicking on the little bypass button here in the top left-hand corner of the plugin. Amber or orange is bypassed. Grayed out is activated. So let's listen to the drums with no processing at all. And then we will bring in the Focusrite so you can kind of just hear what it does. Okay, so here we go. That's with processing. Before. Okay, so I've added a little bit of compression here. I'm not going to go through all the individual settings. If you know how to use compressors and stuff, you can demo this on your own and fiddle with it. But we're doing a 3-to-1 ratio. We're doing about 3 dB of compression. We're doing a low cut filter, as I said here, at about 28 hertz, so it's not triggering the compressor. Up on the we're not using the gate at all. On the EQ section here, we are, let's see, right around 400 hertz. I took out about 3 dB because, again, none of the tracks are processed, so we have a little bit of a mid-range buildup. So I pulled a little 400 out. And then on our high frequencies, 5 dB, I added at almost 5K just to give it a little bit of top. And then our low frequencies, about 4 dB at about 60 hertz to give us a little bit more thickness, or 56 hertz to be exact. Okay, turned up the input gain a little bit to push the plug-in because these tracks were recorded a little conservatively. And then I added some V gain here and a little total harmonic distortion. Okay, you can hear it there as we turn it up. And before, after. Now let's bring our bass guitar in here on our bass bus. Say bypass it. With it. Okay, doing a little bit more compression here, about 6 to 8 dB worth of compression at the loudest part of that bass guitar. That's all we're really doing there. And then a little bit around, what do we do? Around 666 hertz. I added a few dB to hear a little bit more of the fingers on that bass guitar. Again, we're modeling channels 3 and 4 here on this particular plugin. We did 1 and 2 on the drums, 3 and 4 on the bass. Again, the input gain's still at 12 o'clock. We added a little bit of V gain, a little bit of harmonic distortion. Again, before. Okay, now we have acoustic guitars. It's before. After. Okay, so there we're doing again about 3 to 1 ratio, about 4 to 5 dB of compression, because again, we're not processing the individual tracks. We didn't even do a low cut here, probably should have down here. We could have done it, or actually I did it up here. Did a low cut up here at around 110 Hertz. Okay, so there's a low cut filter here, rolling off the real low end. And then on the top end, I added 10K, about 6 dB. And that's it on the EQ, nothing else, just a little bit of brightness. We modeled channels 5 and 6 here, okay? And again, a little bit of V gain, a little bit of harmonic distortion. You can hear how the acoustic guitars get a little brighter and they cut through the mix a little bit more. They're not as boomy sounding. It's before. After. Okay, very open on the top end. It's got a nice clarity on this plugin, which I really like. Again, very kind of Neve, reminiscent of a Neve, totally different than an SSL to my ear. So let's listen to some keyboards now. Keyboards and piano, again, they're kind of subtle. I'll turn them up a little bit just so we could hear them. I'll make them a little louder than I typically would so you can hear the effect of what the plugin is doing. Before. Right, pokes right through the mix. Okay, so here again, we're doing about 4 to 5 dB of compression here. We got a low cut filter once again at about a little less than 100 Hertz. Again, on right around 4.7K, I added about 10 dB, really brightened it up. And then at 400 Hertz, I took out about 4 dB to take away some of the mids. So we rolled off some of the lows, took out some of the mids, boosted the highs. Okay, same thing. We pushed the plug in a little bit here with the input gain to get, it was recorded kind of conservatively. Modeled channels 6 and 7, a little bit of V gain, a little bit of total harmonic distortion here. Okay, really, really cool. We don't need the gate. Now let's listen to our electric guitars finally. Okay, let me turn down the keyboards and the pianos again so we can hear those guitars. Those guitars start really, really muddy, and the Focusrite plugin really cleans them up. So let me lower these pianos and these keyboards a little bit back to where they were. Okay. That's before. Okay, so again, really cleans up that low mid area. So in the low mids, as a matter of fact, we took out about 5 dB at about 315 Hertz. We did a low roll off again at 105 Hertz and below is gone. Doing a little bit of compression. It's about 8 dB of compression here to 3 to 1, or no, 2 to 1 ratio here, about 8 dB of compression. And then on the high side, 10K, I added about 8 dB. What's great about the high-end EQ on this, which reminds me a lot also of like the API EQ by Slate Digital, where the top end is very smooth sounding. You can really boost up the high frequencies and it never sounds edgy or bitey. It sounds very musical, and that's what I really like about this. Not many EQs are like this, but this one is. Again, push some of that input gain, a little bit of V gain, model channels 7 and 8. Okay, so that's what we did here. Now let me turn off the gate here. We don't need that. Okay, so now, individually it's, a little on the subtle side, you may say, but what does it sound like as an cumulative effect? Okay, so now let's turn them all on and off together. So we have our drums, bass, acoustic guitar, keyboards, and electric guitar. So if you just keep your eye on the power button over here, I'll turn them all on and off, and you'll hear what the cumulative effect is. So we'll start with them off. We'll start with them on. We'll start with all the plugins engaged, then I'll turn them off and turn them back on and you can hear the difference. So here we go. Here's with the processing. Okay, so there you go. So that is the cumulative effect of putting only, 5 of these across our buses. As I said earlier, there are no other plugins anywhere in the mix. So all you're hearing is what this Focusrite SC channel strip is doing. Again, I really like channel strips. I'm a big proponent of channel strips. I do a lot of teaching of my students using channel strips. A lot of people kind of overlook these because I think for a beginner especially, they can be a little intimidating. There's a lot of knobs and every plugin works a little differently. Not everything is laid out the same, and they just feel it's easier just to use a regular old EQ and compressor separately on your tracks, which you can do. But what I really like about channel strips is not only is it just put, the gate, the compressor, the EQ, and in this case, a de-esser, and all these other things all inside of only one plugin, but what it does is it gives you a very unique sound that when you put these across your entire mix, you give your whole mix a different flavor, a different sound, a different analog vibe to it. And that's what these plugins are really designed to do, is to put them across the entire mix, put them on every single channel as well as your buses. Now you may say, well, geez, is that going to be a real CPU intensive? Now every plugin is going to be a little bit different. Now again, I only have 5 of these on mine, but if I were to check my performance monitor here, let's just see where we're at. We're only running at 5%. With these running. Now again, I have an iMac Pro, a brand new 2019 iMac Pro with 32 gigs of RAM and an 8-core processor, so I have a pretty high performance machine, and that's really going to change how this really works. But if you just have, you may not have a real high-end, several core processor machine. If you have like a quad core with 16 gigs of RAM in it, again, depending on some other things, you could probably put 5 of these, may only run you maybe 20 or 25% in your CPU usage, and therefore you could put 10 or 15 of these on a mix and you'll be able to use these. Now, will you be able to put, in this particular mix, what do we have? We have, how many channels do we have? We have 28 channels here. Can you put 28 of them on your mix? Maybe not, depends on your computer. But if you don't have a real high-end computer and you're running into problems with CPU, you can do what I did here and just put them on the buses, because it does make a big difference. So a little bit of coloration and some of that Focusrite vibe just using the buses is better than none at all. But if you have the CPU, in your bank, so to speak, real estate there, I would put them across all of the tracks, because that's where you're going to get the biggest effect, because you can hear what a difference just 5 instances of the plugin do. So you can imagine if you put them on 20 tracks and dialed them in, how would it sound? And this is really great. So again, I love channel strips because every mix I like to give a different flavor. So, you know, between just Plug-in Alliance alone has the SSL, both the E and the G series, now the Focusrite, and they also have the Neve 88RS. You know, those are 4 different, completely different sounds and completely different consoles that you can use. And as of the recording of this video, Plug-in Alliance now is offering the membership program where I think for $20 a month or $24 a month US, you get access to all of their plugins, which includes this. This plugin full retail is $349 US, which I think is awfully expensive. If you own some of their other plugins and you're on their mailing list, every so often they'll send you, you know, vouchers where you can get this for maybe like $199 or $99. They're always putting them on sale, but check their website at Plug-in Alliance for current pricing, because depending on when you're watching this video, that can all change. So it all will change. Just to be full disclosure, here, Plug-in Alliance did give me this for free, as well as their SSL channel strips I did a demo on a few months ago. They asked me to take a look at it and to review it and to post it, and I tried it and I really liked it, and I did, but just because they gave it to me for free, I wouldn't be telling you it's a good plugin if I didn't think so. I really do like this, and if you're looking for that Focusrite sound, this is it. I mean, this is the only company that makes an emulation of a Focusrite. There are other companies that make emulations of SSL and Neves and APIs, but BrainWorx, along with Plug-in Alliance, they're the only ones that I know of that have done a Focusrite emulation. So I hope you enjoyed this video, taking a first look and listen to the BrainWorx Focusrite SC console by Plug-in Alliance. Go demo it for yourself. I think you could demo it for 14 days or whatever it is on their website, and you can check it out. And if you like it, you can always pick it up. I think it's really, really cool. So for more videos like these, make sure you subscribe to Home Recording Made Easy here on YouTube. Again, go out to homerecordingmadeeasy.com. Get your 5 free training courses. It's worth about $110. Absolutely free. No commitment at all. Just for me saying, hey, thanks, man, for visiting homerecordingmadeeasy.com. And last but not least, go to mixingmadeeasy.net. If you really want to learn the craft of mixing in a non-technical way, mixingmadeeasy.net is for you, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care.